We're going to talk about some weird stuff tonight, but it's important because I think a lot of the UFO community, a lot of the people that are defending these UFOs and these sightings, these alien abductions, which we know are not alien abductions, they're demonic manifestations, are defending these things, saying they are good. But the evidence proves otherwise. The Bible says, "By their fruit you may know them," and we're going to prove by the end of this show that they are not good. There is nothing good about this phenomenon. Take a look.
Curious to know about Skinwalker.
But you're asking Jim, right?
I can ask whoever wants to answer.
Not me.
What's going on at Skinwalker, and what's its connection to UFOs?
Okay, so right now we're listening to Kirk Jermunkle. I think that's how you say his name, Jerry Munkle. He runs a YouTube channel called Theory About Everything, and it's a really interesting channel. You should check it out. I'm not saying that he has everything right. I'm just saying he has a very popular and a very well-known group that follows him because he does a lot of interesting topics. Lately, he's been doing a lot of UFO stuff, and I'm taking a lot of my material from him because he gets a lot of popular people on the show. But what's fascinating about this is that he's diving into things that normal people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and he's asking some government or informal government officials about it, such as our one and only Jim Semivan. He's a CIA vet, and he knows a lot about what's going on in the UFO realm, specifically what's happening in our U.S. government about this right now. And as if you haven't been a part of this program, this YouTube channel, please subscribe, because we go over all the strange stuff, looking through the lens of the Bible and seeing what's actually going to happen, including prophecy of what's happening, what's coming down the pipeline for you, because you have to make a decision soon about this exact topic, and that's going to be dangerous. Before we get back into this, let me introduce some of the crew that you're seeing on the screen here. To the left bottom is Jim Semivan. He is a Vietnam vet, like I said. To the right, that is Tom DeLong. He's a longtime musician, but he's also been always fascinated in this stuff. And he's gotten himself in to the U.S. government by talking his way in and knowing about this stuff. Up top, on the top right, is our Kirk Jermunkle. He's the YouTuber that I was talking about. And he's asking the question now: what is it about Skinwalker Ranch? What is Skinwalker Ranch? Let me piece that out. Skinwalker Ranch is this place in Utah that is kind of strange, and I haven't talked about it on this channel before, but I'm sure a lot of people that follow this channel, a lot of people that know about UFOs and the paranormal and stuff, know about this ranch because it is well known, well documented that strange things happen here. You can YouTube Skinwalker Ranch, and you can see news clips about it. Strange thing has happened. Drones fall out of the sky around it. It's just the devil going through all this stuff and playing with people. For some reason, they are confined, and they want to be confined, and they're happy to be confined to this one little area. Not all of them, obviously, just a group of rebels that want to just mess with people's minds, and people are fascinated by it like it is a haunted house of some sort. And so they go to this area and they try to do tests on this area, thinking that they're going to find some portals or something weird, but it's just a waste of time. What we know is interesting. The reason why we're discussing this one topic is because you're going to bring up something called cattle mutilations. Now that's the most important and most interesting thing about this whole thing is that these things, for some reason, it has been documented that they like to do strange and terrible things to animals. Maybe it's because they can't. Some of them are just downright evil. Marneau talks about 3 different types of demons. Ones that are just distraught, they don't know what to do. Ones that are focused and they're going to get. They're on a mission to try to make us sin, and so they can say, "Hey God, you know what? You're wrong. You can't make people that are your creation is broken." And number 3, ones that are just angry, just mad. And I think a lot of them here, they want to be a part of this area so they can mess with people, just as they used to do before the 1700s. But in the 1700s, there was a huge, Morneau says, huge a meeting, and Lucifer himself said, hey, listen, in order to make God disappear and people to forget about God, we got to make the spiritual realm disappear too. Because if we don't make the spiritual realm disappear, people are going to realize that there is something else beyond their physical realm, and they're going to believe not only in us, but also in God as well. And he's done exactly that. They've all gone underground since the 1700s. All that superstition has gone away. You can walk under a ladder now, and it's going to be just fine. And all that superstition is gone, as well as an introduction of atheism in 1844, when Darwin started his thesis that just took the world by storm, and still everyone's just fascinated by this theory of evolution. So moving on, let's go straight back to the program here. They're going to talk a little bit about this Skinwalker Ranch, and they're going to go straight into this strange thing that happens with cattle mutilations. Check this out.
Well, I am by no means an expert on Skinwalker Ranch. Tom and I know all the people that are involved: George Calm Kelleher and George Knapp, Calm Kelleher. I've never met Mr. Bigelow. I was supposed to at one point, but it never happened. But there's I think that's a fascinating case. I think, but I don't know whether I can actually discuss that in any kind of meaningful way, because I wasn't there and I wasn't part of it. I read the book like everybody else. John Alexander's a dear friend of mine, and he was there, and we talk about it quite a bit. I think what had happened there was true and accurate and real. But I also believe that when you go looking for the phenomenon, it basically doesn't show itself. It doesn't like to do that. And after 40 years of studying that, it's that low observability thing going on, why we can never get a good picture of a UAP. For some strange reason, it doesn't want to go there. So you mentioned earlier you're dazed and confused. Well, yeah, I'm about as dazed and confused as you are by the whole thing. I have my own opinions based on what I know and based on what I've read, but Skinwalker is fascinating. I from everybody I know that have been there and done that, including some people that were not mentioned in the book, which I don't want to get into, but it's a pretty serious place, and a lot of serious things happen there. But I'll let Tom go and talk more about that.
Sure. What I find fascinating about Skinwalker is that you basically have the convergence of multiple things happening. So when you look at UFOs, you can find stories where somebody might come out and their cattle are missing, or there's a cattle mutilation where blood is gone, or parts of the jaw are dissected, maybe an eyeball's gone, maybe the reproductory organs are gone, or whatever. And a lot of really weird things about it, like maybe the cuts are in between cells, maybe there's no vascular collapse, maybe it happened within 10 minutes when the farmer turned around or something. Then you have people that might have seen lights in the sky the night before when it happened. And one of the scientists there was walking through a field, and they basically saw they walked past like a cow or something, and then they turn around and it was gone. And then 10 minutes later, they're like, where is it? And they turn back around, and there it is on the ground, just out of nowhere, with 2 broken legs. So they run in to grab.
Mutilated or alive?
It was alive, and then they run back into the house to go grab a gun or something to take care of it. And when they come out, now it has 4 broken legs, or something. It's creepy and causing alarm, because number one, it makes no sense. Number two, it's happening so quick.
Have you come up with any theories as to why cattle mutilations occur?
So before we go further into that this is very interesting, because he's saying that there's multiple things that can join in this area. There's and he didn't go into the details, but basically he's saying that there's UFOs, there's paranormal, there's ghosts, there's all this stuff that kind of congeal together in that area. Well, we know why they're congealing together in the area. They're all based off the same entities that are just angry that they don't get to have a part of the end anymore. Their time is up. They're just going to wreak havoc on something, but they're held in check because they want to see this whole thing play out. Consequently, when God comes back, and jails everyone to this earth before he takes everyone back, as the Bible says. I mean, it is part of God's sovereignty, his righteousness, that he lets all the sinful, the ones that don't want to go to heaven, the ones that aren't going to go to heaven, die by his brightness, the Bible says. Because if they wouldn't, just as a upset person would be upset that they lost at a chess game, these things, these terrible entities are just going to pop that board, pop the earth, just make it real through the sky, and just hate this place. And you can't imagine how the pawns are that maybe didn't make it are gonna feel. So God lays them to rest, and he takes his righteous to the sky, and everyone is desolate on earth except for Satan and his minions. Now let's continue.
Me personally,
Or heard any that you found to be
I
interesting,
think
credible?
well, I wouldn't have any science to back anything up. So I could tell you, I'm a dreamer, so I can come up with a bunch of ideas. I have some. I've heard scientists discuss, tracking our food supply, trying to see if there's things that are in our food supply that are affecting kind of how we evolve. Okay, that was an interesting, and there's a lot more to it, but it's not my place to get into that. I've heard people discuss that, it's genetics or something. It's understanding a bit more about, the life here on Earth or whatever. Then you get into way more far out stuff, as maybe it has something to do with genetics with man, because maybe bovine type samples deal with, the blood or I don't know, like the glands or something.
See, he's fumbling for words right now because he has no idea what's going on. He's read a lot of theory about what the UFOologists have said, as he is a UFOologist, for lack of a better word. He's read a lot about it. He's theorized a lot about it, but he really doesn't know. If you don't start with the correct basis, you're not going to end up at the right solution, and that's why he's fumbling right now.
Do with people want to go way out and be science fiction about it, but I just don't know. And I just think that what we are hearing is that people are seeing lights and craft in the sky in areas where they find these things. We know they're happening and have been happening for decades and decades, like not just like a few, like thousands, but no one really knows the reason why. Maybe someone somewhere in some basement knows, but I don't want to pretend that I know, because I don't. But I do know people have been studying this for like 30 years, and they all tend to say the same thing. It's like it's happening in a way that doesn't look like we can pull off what we're finding. It just looks they found cattle with organs, like their heart missing, but no incisions anywhere. Like somehow they reached in and just grabbed it and pulled it out, So it's like, what does that mean? What is that? I don't know.
Yeah, see, so Tom doesn't know. Tom doesn't know what's going on, probably primarily because there's another realm around him. There's another realm. He doesn't want to establish that these things are entities and they are evil. And that's my primary reason I'm bringing this up. People say, well, these things are nice, they're benevolent, they want to stop the wars, they hate that we're killing each other, and they see us as primitive beings, and they're advanced beings, and they want us, and they are looking down and waiting for us to become a better, more advanced society. And that's just simply not true. Let's look at the evidence. What we know is the theory and the documents, the official documents have said. And this is what both have said. Some of this is theory, some of this is documented evidence. We're going to congeal it right now just to see what evidence there is that these things are good beings that are waiting for us to advance as society. What we know is that they've mutilated cattle, they've damaged crops, they've abducted people beyond their will, they've messed with the highest security protocols, they've enabled and disabled the most dangerous warheads on Earth, and they've forced, perhaps through vision, a fake pregnancy. They've forced surgeries, perhaps. I mean, it's more likely an abduction vision, because these people come out and they think they have been abducted, they think they've been implanted with something, they think they've had surgeries. But what nice entity would do that and have you remember it? They've burned victims. There's documented, official, unclassified evidence of that, burning victims. They've killed our pilots by ricocheting their own bullets from ships, from planes, and they've lied to people. What good and righteous being is sitting up there saying, yeah, it's okay. You know, I'm gonna have to lie to these people because they're just small and they're naive, and that would be the last thing. Even in a normal Star Trek fantasy show, you want to make the people that are the most advanced society the nicest. But maybe that's Hollywood's tactic. Maybe that's Hollywood's ideas that have been implanted in everyone's head to say, hey, anyone that's more advanced is obviously better than the rest of society. There's an interesting clip that comes from Tim Burkett. He's a congressman based out of Tennessee, congressman. And what he says is very fascinating. Check this out.
They always say they're going to do something about it, and then they get in office. And honestly, I thought Trump was going to do something. They was going to release the files, but you know, they release these files, are redacted. It's just a big blob of whiteout, and clearly something's going on.
Now, we don't have a lot of information about this. I realize that, but it's primarily because our government doesn't know what to do with it. We don't know. All they know is that, hey, this is happening. They have disclosed that it is happening, and they don't know what it is. They've tried to cover it up for 60, 70 years, and they've said, you know what, this is becoming more and more and more prevalent. They're interfering with our closed airspace. We've tried to get rid of them. We ended up killing our own men. Please help us. We don't know what to do. That's basically what they've disclosed through many different means. If we do release this stuff, who knows what will happen if we try to contact these things. That could open up a whole can of worms, and that's what I go into in Starfall. If we actually contacted these things, that would open up Pandora's box, in other words. But listen to this. Listen to Congressman. This is fascinating what he says. He's one of the congressmen of Tennessee, and he reveals some stuff that's kind of amazing. But he also, this is going to surprise everyone, even though he believes in this stuff and he believes some pretty surprising things, he also believes that it's found in the Bible.
That we can't handle. I mean, UFOs were in the Bible. Read Ezekiel. It talks about the wheel flying around. So, I mean, they've been around since we've been around, and somebody needs to come up with some answers.
Ezekiel does talk about a wheel within a wheel, but it doesn't say anything about UFOs in there. It doesn't say anything about aliens in there. What it does say, I actually went over and talked to Doug Batchelor, a well-known radio host, a well-known TV host. He does 3 or 4 different programs every week and a radio show on Sunday nights, live, Bible Answers Live. He answered the question about Ezekiel, and he did a phenomenal job. I got that YouTube video up on my YouTube channel. You got to go check it out. Doug Batchelor, look for it on my channel. It's really interesting and answers all your questions about UFOs in the Bible. Check it out.
So, I mean, they've been around since we've been around, and somebody needs to come up with some answers.
So even when something's supposed to be released coming up in a few weeks or months, what do you think is going to be in that?
I don't believe it. I think Roswell was covered up. I think,
wow.
More people believe in UFOs than believe in Congress for good reason, because of the jackleg stuff we do like that. We talk about we're going to release it, and then we never do, or we release something that's so redacted that it's just ridiculous. The Air Force had a release on Roswell, which was the big deal, I think, from '48, and the big cover up there. And the guy that did it was a smart aleck, and he kind of smirked the whole time, and nobody took it serious. They ought to take it serious. The American public wants to know, and frankly, we deserve to know.
Isn't that interesting? Frankly, we deserve to know, he says. This whole stuff is coming out, folks, and it's going to be some decision time. We're going to have to decide, each and every one of us, what we believe about this stuff when these beings start appearing, when your dead relatives start appearing, when the tricks and the trade of these demonic figures that have been suppressed for the last 300 years from doing these, this 13th floor stuff and black cat stuff, when they come back and start making these fooling tricks again, our laws of physics are going to go upside down. We're not even going to completely understand what's happening. It's going to mess with everyone's mind until the very end of time. And we're just starting to see the beginning of it. Stay tuned. Subscribe to this channel, because there's a whole lot more I got coming out. And it is truly fascinating stuff. See you soon.